everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the I Don't Know Running podcast, where we share our experiences that make running fun and sometimes not so fun. I'm Lewis, and I'm a self-admitted lazy ultra who has it together.
All right. That was awesome.
And I am Mitch, and if you didn't do that last part, I was going to ask what other thing were you going to throw at us today? So
Just that.
I don't believe you have it. And I'm Mitch. I don't believe you have it together at all.
I'm Dave, clinical manager at PT Sports Pro.
And this is Terrence Rubin with PT Sports Pro, bringing you another episode of You Don't Know What You Don't Know. Thanks for asking the questions, Mitch.
Well played.
Yeah. No, we're a team on this end of the table.
See that, Dave? We need to figure out what's going on this side.
Well,
Get
you guys,
a little.
your outfits are starting to match. Right?
We're getting closer. Yeah.
I have faith.
Yeah. Do you? You have faith in me?
I do.
I was about to throw out my biblical definition. I'll let that one go.
Well, that's why I had the and me
be
part.
like Sunday school altogether.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we had a good kind of summer season here, and I can't believe it. August is blown by as quickly as it has.
Mm-hmm.
Still, lots of racing still to do, and lots of fun stuff even happening at PT Sports Pro. As time of airing right now, our lab should be up and running.
That's
and
exciting.
So it's so exciting. You know, we're so excited to bring back not just the testing, which we'll talk a little bit about for this episode, but also to bring back Todd Buckingham. And he's our little stud athlete at the practice, you know. After Dave, of course.
Did beat him at Reeds Lake Triathlon last year.
Right,
You will be so mad that I just said that.
It's a good thing this is not recorded.
Yeah, right. Don't listen, Todd.
Yeah, so what's you guys' plans for, you guys got a few races coming up that you would have done at time of airing, and then something that's shortly after, right?
We talked about that a little bit before. There's a few races coming up. What are the races coming up? Why don't we do that first?
Yeah, well, so locally, the big ones coming up for us is going to be actually the Bridge Run.
Yeah.
Very popular race, 10-mile, 10K, 5K. One of the, I think Run GR puts on a great event, which is, I think now it's taken over by DEMA, Family of Races.
Yep.
So they put on some really nice events. It's nice to have Brian involved with those as well.
And that's a big My Team Triumph one.
Big My Team Triumph event. Rob Hyde, that's the race director there, and Kyle Cutler, they do an awesome job making sure that, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and great race experience.
And that's a fun one in that you start before everybody, right?
Yeah. Well, and for most of our races, when you say you mean like My Team Triumph, right?
Yeah. Sorry,
For a lot of the races, we do start right up front. There's very few events, that we're starting towards the end. But we have that coming up. Actually, the same day, Dave and I will be up in Frankfurt for the Ironman.
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
Really? Yeah.
Okay.
Once again, PT Sports Pro has been given the contract to do the medical work up there. So I'll be kind of working as the director of the medical operations bit, and our medical director there would be managing all of the race day expectations. We'll have a team of about 30 staff out on the course. So excited to coordinate that, bring it all together.
30 staff?
Medical staff, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and we recruit from, all over the place. Hello, buddy.
Rowdy is joining us.
Rowdy's joining us for today's podcast.
That must mean, I'm guessing, Nicole left. That's why he's probably down here. So welcome, Rowdy, to the podcast.
All right. Finally, he's going to get a little rowdy in here.
Yeah. He is a self-admitted lazy dog.
So with the Ironman, it's a 70.3 distance event. They'll probably have 15 to 1,800 participants up there, and we're excited to be from year one. We were the original medical providers for the event, and we've had such a good partnership with them that we continue to do that into 2024 and hopefully into the future.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then we've got a couple of marathons. There's the Last Chance to BQ that's coming up, I think, the week before that.
Yep.
And Millennium Meadows, I believe, may be coming up this weekend.
It's coming up soon. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've done that once. I know it's in August. So
yeah.
It
may be after this podcast comes. It's somewhere in that third or fourth week of August. Yeah. And then we have the big one, the Grand Rapids Marathon, and Don Kern and his crew there are looking forward to some record numbers already.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
I being part of that crew because I've been on the committee since they started that race back in 04.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, we just had a meeting a few weeks ago, and our first meeting, and it's good to see some excitement in marathoning in Grand Rapids.
Yeah. So there are a couple of other ultra races happening that I am tossing around. Well, you are too.
Yeah.
Woodstock. What are you thinking about on Woodstock?
I think, based on how I feel, it might just be the marathon. And I say just because you can run as far as you want.
Yeah. I'll be looking at the 50 miler there, or I don't know. It could be a marathon as well to get ready for Indiana Trail 100, which also has a 50-mile race. And I'm looking at that one as well.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely looking at both of those ultras. My goal would be a 50-miler, though, at one of those two.
Earlier this year, I was thinking that I was going to be ready. I was going to do some ultra distance, if it was going to be a 50-mile or 100K even, because I kind of like that distance. But
yeah,
the way things have been kind of playing out, I think I need to back it off.
Yeah. From an injury standpoint or lack of training?
Injury, I don't know if training. I've been running a lot but
True.
Just this last race, it did not go as well as I had thought. Like, I thought I was going to have a lot more in the tank, and I was like, and how I felt after, I'm thinking there's no way I could do an ultra film like this. There's no way.
We should really do some baseline stuff on this guy and figure out where he lies.
See where you're at.
Maybe VO2 max on lactate threshold.
Visit PT Sports Pro and find out what's going on.
Yeah. I mean,
get an analysis done.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Find out what I'm missing, because I think it's definitely the last race. It was an energy level was part of it too. And
and we often find that even without any of the testing, energy levels, depletion, people are just not taking in the right amounts of fuel and hydration.
I can see that. I am right on Mitch's coattails because I want to do the same. I want to come in. I had a little bit of an issue at the Mummy Marathon, not the ankle. I mean, we know about that, but from a nutrition and hydration, sodium, I'm guessing, content. Who is it that you recommended that starts with a P?
Precision hydration.
Precision hydration. I went ahead and I went through and did their analysis online and ordered what they said. But I'm telling you, it's a little confusing on what you're supposed to be taking. And
that's what gives us,
No, totally.
That makes the test worth it.
I thought I had it figured out, and then they sent me the packet, and I went, well, I'm going to try this tomorrow at this race, the Mummy.
Oh my God!
No.
And that's when you do it, right?
Rookie.
That's when you do it, right?
Yeah, I like your style.
You're
though.
supposed to have new shoes.
Yeah.
The rule is don't try anything for the first time on race day. I've blown that out of the water 100 times. You try stuff on race day so you know how it works.
Exactly. If it's going to work.
I agree with this message.
Okay.
I think you're good.
I will take the official stance and tell our listeners, don't listen to these guys. Do not try anything new on race day.
I knew I was.
He's a good bad example.
That being said, I have tried a new wetsuit on.
None of us died
at one of my Ironman races. But
Terrence,
don't
I'm
do that.
Still here. I'm not dead.
That's right. And we don't have a shirt for you if you do die. So
what did you learn?
Well, here's what I learned. Two things. I did not understand what I should have been taking and when. I got this packet and I went, what? There's too many things and too many variables now. I believe the reason is they give you different options for basically the same thing. The tabs versus the powder in the drink. And
just put everything in one drink?
Well, no, I didn't. But I realized I didn't know what I was really supposed to be doing, even from a quantity standpoint. Now, they did tell me that, but I in my rush to get out the door in the morning, I don't have time for that. So, and I tried their goos and realized, just like every other goo, I can only do so many. Mm-hmm. Their goo is interesting. It's a plainish type taste, which I didn't mind. But for me, in a normal marathon, those probably would have been fine. 3 hours, between
I think
3:15 and 4 hours, fine and dandy. 5 hours to 6 hours of trudging through the Mummy Marathon did not work for me with that. I needed something else.
I think it's funny every time you say the Mummy and you say marathon, I'm like, huh? And then I'm like, it is only a marathon.
Yeah, it is only a marathon.
Distance.
But not time-wise.
No.
Time-wise.
Because you think about it, you're talking about how long it took you to finish that, and you were third overall.
Yeah.
That says a lot.
Wow. Yeah, it was very tough.
I have so many questions, but I'm gonna hold off on that. There's so many different ways I want to dissect.
Here's the thing.
Just what you
I'm not quite done yet. I got done with that race.
Wait, there's more.
But wait, there's more. And I'm not kidding you. I had to sit at that finish for probably an hour plus. I couldn't walk because they would just cramp. I would just cramp. And and there was no way to stretch. After this is done, I want you to show me how to stretch this muscle. It's the inside. And I had cherry pickers. I couldn't do it. They would just lock. Yes. And I didn't know what to do. I've never had that. I just had to let them cramp and be in pain. Like I've never had that.
Did you at least lay in the water? And
I couldn't get to it. I could not move. I had to ask Karen, will you go get my cooler just so I can have some, I brought chocolate milk with me, and she did.
You did not talk about this stuff in the podcast.
I didn't.
No,
I
my
didn't
gosh,
talk about this.
That's the best part.
Yeah, this is what we listen to the podcast for, man.
Well, this is what I wanted to throw at you guys. Say, help me.
Well,
help
thanks
me.
for saving us because this is. I mean, there's a few more things that we wanted to kind of talk about.
Do we have enough time
before we jump into the actual testing? But seeing that you went there, let's talk a little bit about this precision hydration. Right?
Yeah.
So for those of you that don't know, Precision Fuel and Hydration is a company out of the UK. They produce a really cool system of analyzing the sweat composition, right? And we just ordered a unit, so actually we should have it in place right now at the airing of this show. But we've used the unit before, and we really love the data that you could get from it. But the key is that you actually have to have the test to really figure out the configuration of what it is that you need. And so otherwise it's just guesswork. So it's back to some of the things that we've anecdotally sort of said in the past, right?
Louis, a really good salesman leading into why you get tested.
I know. It's like I can take anything he says and turn it into
I'm usually one that does the dumb stuff. Look at here.
I nailed this one too.
So we'll do the IQ test first, and then we'll do the NA test. But no, I think so in the past we've made a couple of comments about if you're a salty sweater, you should have at least around 700 milligrams of sodium per hour that you're out there training and racing, right? And that being true, there's, like I said, I have a ton of questions like, well, how much did you actually take? How often were you taking it? How much of hydration were you having in between? Because you can't just have the pills. You got to drink something with it. And then, what was your calories like? Like, did you take in any calories as well with that? Yeah. And were you dealing with anything leading up to that? Because your groin muscles is what you're saying that really locked out, right? So what is it that you're doing? I mean, were you like doing like a runway modeling kind of show beforehand that made those muscles tighten up? Or?
The second job.
No, that's just it. Nothing that I can think of that would specifically target those muscles.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the dosage. How many milligrams of sodium were you taking per hour that you were out there?
Well, I was trying to take 1,000.
Okay.
And that was based on, I believe, they can only do so much, right? Through that questioning.
Rough estimate.
Because it's based on info, bad info in, bad info out, right? Mm-hmm. And so if I'm not giving them good info, I'm doing my best, to give them good info. Mm-hmm. But I believe I wanted to target 1,000 milligrams an hour.
Mm-hmm. And did you start before the race?
I actually did. Because of you guys, because you've mentioned it, I believe, or both of you have. You start with a couple. I've actually done that for a lot of my runs lately now. I'm like, all right, Dave says this, I'm going to do this. So I popped a couple of the S-caps or whatever. I think it's the S-caps. before my run, but like before I even start, like I've started to do that. And so I did that for that race, took a couple of S-caps.
How much?
Actually, no, it was theirs, I think. The ones that they sent, it was theirs.
So just about, they have a couple of dosages on the capsules. There's like 500,
I think
1,000,
theirs were
1,500.
500, and I took two.
Two. Okay, so you took 1,000 milligrams of sodium before. How much of water did you drink?
With a
Approximately per hour. How many hours? How many ounces of water per hour?
So that's where I think I was supposed to be taking maybe like 32 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
I think, because I think it was their packets. Now I'm switching a little. Going to their packets are 750.
Mhm.
I think. See, now this is where my memory is going to get. Maybe I was actually supposed to take more than 1,000. I bet you it might be closer to like 1,500. Would that be a lot?
No,
Not necessarily.
Okay,
but
because
usually
I think
based on just like an online questionnaire test, I don't know if they would necessarily recommend that high
okay,
because they just don't have enough data.
okay,
But because, like I said, we're recommending like 700. They're saying 1,000. So they're giving you a little bit more based on the way you answer the question.
okay.
It'll be interesting to see what your test results.
Yeah, I would have
are
to
gonna
show
be.
you.
Yeah.
But I want to say I was trying to do 2 of their packets in my drink
Mhm.
an hour.
Okay, and how many bottles in? Two
So
bottles.
two.
2 bottles an hour.
Yeah, 2 bottles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. And so calorically, what were you taking in
Yeah. What else?
fuel?
Unfortunately, that's where I knew I was falling behind. I was doing the goose.
Mhm.
And that's because that's all I had really. Now I did at the turn at the halfway, at the half marathon mark, because it's a loop. I grabbed they had and I did look at the calories too. I looked at the calories. I don't remember it right now, right here, but I want to say it's probably 150, 200 calories. This granola bar they had, it was a larger one. And then I also ate a banana. And so I ate that on the way out, and I took another goo. So I did 2 of their goos. I want to say those are 150
Mhm.
calories.
Mhm.
Precision ones. You mean?
Yeah. So I did 2 of those before the turn, before the half, and I did 1 after, and that's all I could do. And by then I was done. I just couldn't do another one.
Yeah. So it sounds
So that was my caloric intake for the race.
right. So
Not
it
enough.
sounds like it wasn't enough for sure.
Yeah, I think it was the
Yeah.
calories more than the sodium.
Yeah.
That's what it
And
sounds.
also, when you take in that high dosage of sodium, and if you don't filter it with the right amount of water, there's that balance that you got to create, because sodium is going to pull water out of your, if you have your concentration higher in your gut, it's going to draw water out of your muscles. And in that sense, what you could also end up doing is just like dehydrating your
And
muscles. That's why you need
you're
to
not
take it.
good. You're not good on keeping up on your hydration anyway.
Yeah.
No.
That's
and
interesting.
with that race being what it is, you just get sick of everything.
Oh yeah,
It
and
is.
for that reason alone, I prefer the capsules versus the powder in the liquid, because then I can actually drink the liquid that I like. But the capsules, I can just pop them in. I don't taste them. I don't have any salty.
I had never
after-
thought of that. That is a great idea.
I know, but I actually tried it before I raced. So
Huh?
what? I know, right?
Who does that?
Not you and Dave, apparently.
I do both.
But no, it does make a difference, and so and this is not even diving into like, obviously you should have trained with it, but also like, what was your pre-race, nutrition, like the 2 or 3 days leading up to that, your pre-race build up. So understandably, your problems were not bad enough. You were able to earn a 3rd place on the roster. So hey, that's good.
I got through the
Congratulations.
marathon.
Yeah,
Okay.
You
Coulda
didn't-
got it. He might have got it second if.
true that he could have won it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, the
he could have set a course
carb
record.
loading.
I doubt that.
carb loading before races, like 2 days, and certainly the night before and the day before, even though it's kind of been stood the test of time and really been sort of something that people hear and I know, that sort of response, like it's real. Like,
Well, it's kind of like, I know I need to take sodium, so let's just take it on race day, But
Yeah.
Yeah,
with the
but
carb
there's-
loading, it's the same thing. Yes, carb loading is the catchphrase, but to Dave's point, There's a certain way in which you need to carb load.
How much?
Yeah.
How much carbs are in fish and chips? I've done that before a race.
Depends. Are they battered and deep fried?
Yeah.
So there's some
Delicious.
calories.
So you're
yeah.
looking about, depending on the size of the fish. I mean, there's about like 13 to 1500 calories in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But
It doesn't sit well in your gut, though.
No, I know, and that's
I had to do it once.
I wouldn't
or
recommend
twice.
it. Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, calorically, the days leading up, you shouldn't necessarily be having that much more calories as much as you should be having the ratio of carbs to other nutrients in your system.
Yeah.
That's what the carb loading is all about.
I definitely
And
did
so,
no different.
and so, the simpler, cleaner carbs are better for you than the
Yeah.
the other stuff.
yeah, I definitely
would've-
did not
I would
prepare for this race.
assume if you like to have a cocktail or two, that you should really back that off the couple days before too.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Yeah, I
I know some that don't.
Yeah, I do believe in a bit of a reward system as well. Is that my training is so well done that if I've always had a beer at the end of a heavy training day and if the day before a race I just kept it light and didn't drink multiple ounces of beer, you're okay. It's I almost
Putting
tend,
away 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I
you don't
almost
sit
tend-
at the bar for 4 hours.
I almost tend to have like a half a beer or of a light beer or something like that, just as a way to tell myself mentally that a half a beer or even a whole beer is not going to derail all the training I put in, but 6 probably would.
Yeah.
So anyway, so back to precision hydration and the issues that you're dealing with. The only thing out of all of the mess up that you've created by doing something on race day, and then this is where my brain is like, well, why was it just that muscle that was cramping? Like, what were you doing differently that overworked your
Yeah.
adductor muscle that made that cramp?
Well, would the race itself probably have a lot to do with it? I
Yeah,
mean, it's
the terrain, if it's like single
tons
track?
of single track
Yeah.
and tons of very steep hill.
Yeah, I was gonna say if there's lots of punchy climbs where
Very.
you're doing a whole bunch
Well-
of the anaerobic.
And
Effort.
and either you're going over a log or under a
Yeah,
log. And a lot
tons of that.
Yeah.
Tons
Lots
of that,
of that.
too.
through
Yes.
through the river.
Squatting down and crouching under.
So the
Totally.
the
Through the river.
The single track races, again, just on my very limited experience of running trails, because I'm not a big fan, is that you do have to keep your feet more like in line versus side by side, and so because you're kind of crossing that over, you do work your adductors more.
Okay.
And it's the same thing when you're crossing over logs and things that you're working those muscles in a way that you don't normally do when you're running.
Gotcha.
I mean, I noticed this years ago when we ran Groundhog in that crazy winter weather snowstorm. And remember, they drove a quad or something out there. And so we could only run in one of 2 tracks. And to cross over, you had to climb over 18 inches of snow. And every time, after that race, my adductors were killing me and my abductors on the side from just crisscrossing back and forth just to pass people.
Interesting.
So
Okay.
you look at the terrain, you're adding that into the mix. It's
Yeah.
almost like less likely that your adductors were cramping or spasming because of a lack of sodium as much as was just because of the way they were used. So there's that. And so the caveat to listeners is that not everything is necessarily electrolyte related if you took in, a fair amount of it.
Yeah, I feel like I think you're probably right in the trail side of things because while I was low on nutrition itself, I definitely feel that. And I believe Mitch has done this as well, since you guys have been on and been telling us more about the sodium intake and things like that, I think both of us have upped our game on that and tried to really pay attention to that intake. And I mean, outside of knowing I was a little low on nutrition, I could feel the energy levels were low. The rest of me felt really good. Like I knew I was I didn't have enough energy, but that was purely because I just didn't want to stomach another goo. And I was close enough at that point. I'm like, well, I only got 6-8 miles. I know it's still 6-8 miles that I probably really could have benefited from a goo. I'm like, well, I'm going slow enough. I just want to get this done. I just don't care. If I slow down, I'm okay with that as long as I don't cramp up. And that's where I was like, well, maybe the sodium's going to take care of that. So,
Right.
So that's where I was.
Yeah. Fair enough. No, so again, it highlights then the importance though of getting some of these tests done. And so when we chose to reopen our performance lab, it wasn't just a matter of offering just barrage of tests. Our tests needed to be very sort of specific. It's very limited. I think there's less than 10 total tests that we do. But it's very specific to, helping you understand your performance and trying to figure out what you can do to improve that performance. And for some of the tests, just doing it's not like the sodium composition analysis is a one and done. We're basically putting an electrode in your arm. We're creating a localized sweating that is then collected in a little tube. That tube is then run through an analyzer, and what it says is what it says. Like what it is what it is. It's going to give you in millimoles, I think, per liter of sweat, and then it's going to tell you based on that number what you should be doing in different race conditions. And of course, you then train with it, figure out what works for your system, whether it's a dissolvable tab, whether it's a capsule, or whether it's a powder.
Train with it.
Yeah,
Okay,
I know.
Got to do that.
Yeah.
No, but we love people like you, Lewis. You keep us busy in our toes. And
right.
so even if it's just the questions,
I should try
it gives us. Now, if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't have this great opportunity to educate our listeners.
Yes,
So there's
this is proof.
Yeah. So, but some of the other tests that are out there, you guys were talking about. Oh, I want to get that test. And so, what tests were you talking about, Mitch?
That's what I was talking about, though. Is really
the sodium one.
Yeah, sodium.
Yeah, I
because
think that's going to be
and
probably
I
our most
want-
popular.
I need to stay on top of like scripted. Like how much do I need to take an hour? Take an hour or whatever.
And the options to do that.
Right.
Right.
And I just need more education on that. I freely admit I am horrible on sodium and nutrition because, like Lewis, the goos after a while they make me want to puke. I
don't disagree. Yeah.
So just better options. And I've tried everything, and I used to be really good at it. But even the chews, and if you're trying to run hard and those stupid chews in your mouth, you feel like you can't breathe.
Yeah.
It's like I've tried all of that stuff.
Yeah, no, I think I wish I could tell you that there is a one size
I
fits
know
all,
there's not.
but there isn't. I mean, people laugh at me when I start talking about like chili cheese Fritos when I'm on a bike ride, or I do like those little waffle.
Stroopwafel?
Yeah, Stroop waffles. They have
those are good.
They have the smaller ones. The thing I love that it gives me something a little bit chewy and a little bit more texture than just a goo. And I will alternate that just to build up my calories. But at the same time, it's all sweet. And after a while, I get that. It's too
That's
sweet.
what's the beauty of ultras, though, is
Yeah.
that you get the smorgasbord when you come into a station.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yes.
grilled cheese sounds fantastic right now.
Yes.
Let me ask you this, because we're on this subject of nutrition, is any nutrition better than no nutrition? Would you basically blanket statement that if I
Calories.
am done with goose,
Uh-huh.
I can't take it.
Uh-huh.
I cannot take it. But I come across whatever chili cheese Fritos
Uh-huh.
or whatever, and you have
I know this
you have
answer.
long enough to go. Is
You
any
need something.
nutrition better than no nutrition at all?
Dave is
Yeah.
they're gonna take the first stab, and I'll back him out, or throw him under the bus.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was kind of thinking about really saying that, coming back to get used to training with various things and variety. Like you need to know what your body does well responding to. And generally, I would say the answer is yes, but like always also keep that in check and don't, come to an aid station and be like, I need something, go right for like chili, or something that it's kind of like,
True. Yeah, that's true.
So
There is
then-
that side.
So back to that, the answer. If the question was, is any nutrition better than no nutrition? It's not clear, right?
yeah.
It depends, because when we think of nutrition, we think of, okay, there's a smorgasbord of, edible things like bananas and cookies and gummies and the typical smorgasbord.
Yeah.
Then there's the atypical smorgasbord, like, chicken wings and,
That sounds
whatever.
really good.
Yeah.
I like
and then
chicken
there's like pizza that falls in the middle of that. It could go either way.
Yeah.
I've been running an ultra and they have pizza out there, and I'm like, that looks like I just can't do it because
What it could do.
what it could do.
Right.
So
So the answer is it depends.
It depends.
Yes.
It's what your stomach can handle. And so what I won't advise people to do is say, like, you know what, the only thing they had was, sweet and sour chicken. So I had that, and then it kills your stomach and you have worse issues.
Yeah.
The other thing to take in any kind of nutrition like that is, you want to test it out before your gut starts to lock up on you. So if you start to take this when you're at mile 20, because now you're starving, it's like, oh, I'm going to just clutch it in thing. It may be a little too late.
Oh, true.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. It's not going to be good.
Yeah.
That's funny. We were training for an ultra one year and running with Sean a bunch of times, and she would have a baggie of pierogies, and she was eating pierogies.
Oh, yes, I remember that.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
She loved them.
Yeah, stick with
Whatever
what you know.
works.
Stick
I mean, if
with
it works,
what you
she
know.
trained with it. It
Yeah.
works, yeah.
So, but it is important to fuel, and the goos are going to only give you a certain amount of fuel and calories, and also like how much can you tolerate in terms of taste and flavor.
I
Yeah.
highly
So-
value variety.
Yeah.
Like honestly,
Yeah.
and variety of product, and like, I think that we're kind of stuck on goose. Really, like, there's Morton has some good products that are
When we say
solid.
goo, though, we mean it's like Kleenex, all the tissues.
Yeah,
Goo.
right.
No, but I mean,
Yeah.
branching away into like a granola bar type.
Oh,
If you go
yeah.
on the feed, for example, that has just a billion different products you can choose from. Literally, at this stage in my training and life and racing and everything
Yeah.
like that, I've been like trying all these different products just to see how they feel before, during, after events. Just get a sense of what sits well in my stomach and what doesn't. And if you take a variety of textures and a variety of ratios of carbs, fats, proteins, then you don't set yourself up to get annoyed and sick of the goo
Whatever
itself.
brand it is. Yeah.
Regardless of the brand.
I will say
Es-
this.
especially in a race that you know is going to take more time. Like if
True.
you're just running a road marathon and you're running, you can kind of plan it out. But that race probably took you almost twice as long as what a normal marathon would take.
Yeah. And I would say an hour and a half longer than I even thought.
Right.
So
Which then you got to plan for that, right?
yeah, and I did not
yeah.
necessarily, but I will say Spring Energy Gel is one that I thoroughly enjoy.
Yeah.
Like that is actually one that I have had a hard time getting sick of during a race. I have,
Yeah. And so to Dave's point though, variety is important, but it's also important to understand what the race is providing. Because if you don't like goo and all they provide is goo, you better be packing your own stuff that you do like. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck out there without anything.
Yeah.
And I remember going through that in my earlier phases of running where I couldn't do goo. For me, I used to do like Excel gels back then. And it was the only thing I could
I
keep
remember
down.
those.
Yeah.
ACCEL,
Yeah.
not Excel. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I had to train myself to get used to goos because, if you ran out of fuel, at least you could have that. And prior to that, if I did an emergency goo, I would get pretty sick. Like my stomach would just rock right up.
The chocolate ones make me gag. I don't know what it is about the flavor and the consistency, but whatever it is,
Oh,
those
It's an outrage,
they actually
man.
make
It's a chocolate outrage. That's what
they
it
actually
is.
make me gag. Like I'll start like
Guess
I
what
can
my
see
favorite
that.
flavor is?
Chocolate outrage.
It's got caffeine in it. It's
Oh,
like,
my
bring it,
gosh.
baby.
it's the Goo brand too. So when we
Yeah.
talk about Goo, it's really
Yeah.
we're talking about
gotta
all
say, though,
gels.
Like, but I will say goo. I do enjoy some of their flavors. Salted caramel, the
Yep.
lemon raspberry one that they just came out with is pretty good.
I had that one. I
It's
was going to say that
pretty
was
good, isn't it?
fantastic.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll come back.
Sublime lime, or that one's pretty good.
Strawberry banana? No.
No, that's just not. No.
You know what? One of my favorite flavors is vanilla. It's good
Really?
old vanilla.
Oh yeah.
Because it's just like I don't have to think about it. It just goes down.
Goo
I'm
has
not expecting
vanilla bean.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's-
Yeah, it's probably not bad
That's
actually.
great.
Yeah.
You asked what other tests. I do want to throw another one at you. VO2 max.
Yes. So, Dave, you had mentioned that was it the VO2 max that they need to have multiple tests done.
VO2 is a great pre-post.
Right.
Or maybe I didn't say that quite right, but like certainly within a large block of training,
Okay.
You're not going to necessarily look at VO2 max really consistently, but you want to have an idea of where you're starting, and then have a good idea of where your training is going to take you. And then you want to measure, has the training done what it's supposed to do for that test?
Gotcha.
So if you're trying to improve your VO2 max, typically VO2 max efforts are higher intensity efforts. So like an anaerobic type effort, where meaning that your body is not really using, or your muscles are not using oxygen as the fuel source. So they're short intervals. The VO2 max really just is telling you how much oxygen are you able to take in to supply to your muscles for that energy.
It's what would you say that it is basically a snapshot of your fitness level at any specific stage? Like, boom, right here.
Yeah,
This is your snapshot of where you're at.
Right.
Yep.
Good, bad, or ugly. VO2 max is going to tell you where you're at. And that's why which is why I kind of threw it back to him, because when we were talking about the testing and how we're setting up the lab, we wanted to make sure that we didn't just do like a VO2 max because you wanted a VO2 max, but we actually gave you some concrete, like, listen, if you're going to do this test, it only makes sense to do something, do the test, do your routine, your workout, and after whether it's, preseason testing, then you have your season and do a postseason test. So just have you shifted? Have you moved the needle? What has to change? And sometimes maybe even something mid-season. So VO2 max testing is really, it makes more sense to have more than one test to see if you've improved.
And but that is something you guys have in your repertoire.
Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah. And then the lactate threshold is kind of even more, and certainly each test kind of has its pros and cons, but altogether valuable. It's kind of part of a big picture of your training. So, you utilize a test to give you information about your training, and certain tests are going to be more valuable given your, whether it's more ultra, marathon, or much shorter distance, or where you're at there. So like a lactate threshold, for example, that can be phenomenal for an athlete who's somewhat shorter than an ultra.
So you're going to say in height, and I was like,
no,
wow. Shorter in height.
So in an event where your mindset or your goal is that you're going to be racing, or your pace is going to be closer to that, what they call a red line, or what you think of as a red line, that's where that test can be more
super valuable. Yeah. And is that something that we come in and we say, yep, I want to get tested for whatever, salt or VO2 max or lactate? Is that like a one type of deal? You hook us up to a bunch of stuff, and we can check the box of like, I want lactate threshold, I want VO2 max, I want.
So
how does that work?
That's a great question. And the way we set it up right now is we work with a company called MindBody. And MindBody is actually a booking platform. It used to be Spa Booker before, and they kind of have since unified under a different brand called MindBody. They have actually created an app for PT Sports Pro. So you can actually go now on your Android or your Apple iPhone platform and download the app. Just look for PT Sports Pro. It'll bring up an app. It's a very bright pink icon with the word PT Sports Pro on it. And
the PT Sports Pro app.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a really cool app. And so when you click on that, it'll introduce you to 3 levels of service that you can book with us. The first level is going to be the performance testing, which is all the stuff that we're talking about right now. So in the performance testing drop, you will be able to see, DEXA scan, VO2 max, lactate threshold, pulmonary function test. You click on the test, it'll tell you what the test does, how much it costs. And if you go, yes, I want this, you can book it, and it'll pop an appointment on Todd's schedule. And you get to book it and pay for it, and then you just show up on the day of your testing. So it's really as seamless, as simple as that. And then from there, Todd will perform the test, and he'll sometimes, depending on if you need to dress a certain way, definitely come in as if you are going to be training or running or test for the test. So if you don't come in business casual.
Yeah.
Right.
So then he'll put you through your paces, run the test, it'll spit out some data. The biggest difference with the way we do the testing at PT Sports Pro is Number one, all the equipment that we're using is very high level, state of the art, like the best of the best to give you the best results. Number two, we have someone like Todd that is not only able to do the test, but can explain to you not just here's your results, but now what do you do with that? Number three, Todd's also going to advise you as to what you're going to need to do in terms of follow-up. When should you follow up? What should you be looking for? And those kind of things are super important in creating this really good continuity for a test. And
Gotcha.
then the fourth thing is that Todd is now your resource. So if you have any questions about, I left your office understanding what I needed to do, but now I'm not quite sure. And then he'll give you an opportunity to figure out how to resolve that. So we don't just look at our tests as being one and done. Even if there is a one and done test, like with the precision hydration, you do not need to repeat that test, but he continues to be a resource for those things.
That's great.
And so when we set up our lab, that was a critical part of, if we're going to do this, here's how we're going to do it, or we're just not going to do it at all.
Yeah.
Two other things that our listeners may find helpful is that we have performance tools as an option on that drop down in the app. And the tools will include access to, like, you could buy or rent space on the Alter G to run on that. You could use Rapid Reboot, and we also have a hyperbaric chamber that can also help you to oxygenate your tissue over a period of time. All of that stuff is on there. You can go ahead, buy it, book it, call it good. The third option you're going to see is a one-on-one personal training. So we're working with Todd right now, and Dave and I have also been able to, carry out some one-on-one personal training sessions. So you can just book a one-on-one appointment where it's like, hey, I don't need to be tested right now, or I've done my testing, but now I'm like, I need someone to just help pull it all together. Here's what I'm training for. Here's what I want to do, but I just need some expert advice. And whether that's a 1 session or a 10 session package, you have the flexibility to book that and get the expertise you need. So
yeah, sounds amazing. And for those listening, I literally, as Terrence was talking, I've had this open for a little bit already. Went there, searched it, downloaded it, and boom, there it is, book. And at the bottom, and you can say, I want to do testing, and it comes up with all the testing, like he said, very quick, very easy. You don't even have to create an account to already see some of the stuff that you can do.
Right. The only time you need the account created is when you need to make the booking.
Actually make the booking. But you can see everything there.
Exactly.
Yeah. So go to your app store, whatever you use, PT Sports Pro.
Yeah.
Pops right up, like you say, and easy to download.
Yeah. And interestingly, as of time of airing, you'll be able to even get access to this or links to it from our website as well.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So from a testing standpoint, there's so many things that we just need data. We just need comparative data, and we want to be able to provide that. The other big test that we're doing is the DEXA scan. Did you say that you were wanting to look at that, Mitch, on the DEXA scan? I was talking to someone recently.
I don't remember what that one is.
Yeah, it's a full body scan that looks not only at body fat composition, but also body fat distribution and bone density.
I don't think Mitch wants that.
I don't want to know my body fat right now.
No,
I've
because
been on vacation for a couple of weeks.
I think what kind of piqued their interest, though, was the whole idea of body fat distribution, right? And more importantly, visceral fat and where and how much. And this scanning tool that we have, it's not just your in-body system where you're just holding onto something and it's running currents through you. No, it's a full-on like $100,000 scanning unit. It's like a full X-ray scan of your body head to toe. And it basically takes sliced images and composes it into a full image.
I mean, it's nicer than those grab bars I grab onto for my treadmill.
Yeah,
it's nicer than those.
Just a little bit, just a little step up. And so
Mitch got nervous there.
I don't know where you're going with that.
It says my heart rate is 230 beats.
Yeah.
So no, it's a really good tool because it does give you a lot of information, and especially. And of course, our lab is not just for athletes. We can use some of these tests with just our general population as well, who just need to understand their numbers and figures and age-based data. So we're excited to be able to have all those capabilities. And as you kind of peruse that app, one of the things you'd notice is that there shouldn't be any test in there that's above $200. So everything is, under $200. We needed to keep it affordable to the general public.
Yeah.
We'll make our margins and numbers, and we're excited about what we can bring to the community with a testing service.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So for our athletes out there, if you always wanted to know your numbers, right? You're now in your sort of mid-season, you've got for your second half of the year, right? So for those of you that did like your spring marathons and your early summer marathons, we're past that. We're getting into the fall. Things change a little bit in the weather. Your schedule may open up a little bit more, if you want to get these tests done, and you still have time to come in and get these done before your September, October races. That may give you some valuable data to help you then understand what you can do before race day. Lewis.
Yeah. Do it on race day. I've heard that's the best way to try things out.
Ignore everything and just run.
Yeah. So is there anything else on testing and so like what to look for, what to ask?
I think it's awesome. I'm really excited for this. This is something that since we started the You Don't Know What You Don't Know piece of the podcast, I've been asking about this.
Right.
So I am excited to get in there and figure out where I'm at.
It was one of those things through unfortunately just circumstances, trying to get some critical pieces together. We had some components when we had originally bought the equipment that were missing, and we kind of tried every avenue to try to get those pieces. Eventually, we got to the point where we just reached out to the company directly and ordered them. Gotcha. And that's how we were able to get the lab up and running. Our original goal was to try to have it open by July 1. But in a sense, the timing is better now into the fall anyways, because summertime, everyone's has been super busy. So we're excited to bring that on board and add one more component to treating you like a pro.
Yeah. I can't wait to come in and have some more coffee.
I got you on that one.
Dave apparently just lays around and makes coffee.
My feet are up on the desk.
I'm kidding.
He does enjoy that a little too much.
My pinky's in the air.
There's small coffee cups.
That is the one thing I love. You walk in. You want a latte? Well, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
You had me at latte. It's like a Jerry Maguire.
You want
The third time I came in, I almost felt guilty. Like, you do this every time? Yeah. Can I have two?
I think most people get taken aback, when they come into our practice because, typically, if you get offered something is usually a cup of coffee or a glass of water.
Yeah,
and we don't even mention the coffee. We're like, would you like a latte or a cappuccino? And that usually like gets the choice right there. Like, oh, I'll take a cappuccino. Really?
Yeah.
Just be careful of getting your guard down. The next thing you know, he's working on your calf.
That's what happened to Mitch. He just showed up to say hi, and next thing you know,
it's like, that hurts.
One latte and a table later.
Anyways, well, that's another episode of You Don't Know What You Don't Know. And when it comes to treating me like a pro, we're really taking out all the stops at PT Sports Pro and trying to make sure that if we're going to do it, we do it well.
Yeah.
So,
thanks.
That note, everyone, till next time.
Yeah, now you know.
Now you know.